Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and I was inside all day today. I did have plans to get out and do some things. It didn't work out for me that way, but I did manage. I don't know if it was really just a day of just hanging out with myself, which it was, but I'm always trying to do something. I'm always trying to make a little bit of movement for myself every single day. And that determination in my dreams, in my goals, where I see myself 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I don't try to get too far ahead of myself only because, right, it's life and we never know how life will turn out for ourselves, right? We go through seasons where everything is going amazing, everything is going nice and smooth, right? Everything is clicking into place and you think, "Oh, life just can't get any better than this." And then all of a sudden, a wrench gets thrown into your life, and it's how we manage that. It's how we ride those waves, how we adapt in those difficult times. Let me just take out my notifications here so I can see if anybody pops in. It's how we ride those waves in those seasons that we don't expect, whether those seasons are absolutely amazing, wondrous, magical, full of excitement and adventure. And I always find that I have to ignite that myself. I just can't sit back. I don't know. It's just not my nature just to sit back and see what comes to me. I've been hanging out with the entrepreneurs for a very long time now. And this is where I get this idea of movement because it was in the evidence that I saw in the work that they do that I knew it works. That's how it works. For each one of us, we have to see that evidence with the people that we surround ourselves with, the people that we take advice from, right? The people where we put our safety in their hands. Like we have to see that evidence for ourselves. And that idea of making some movement, I recognized it in the success of the entrepreneurs when I first came in to working in social media. For a lot of it, it was me wanting, well, how it started is I wanted to be on Big Brother Canada. And I didn't have any following in social media. Social media was pretty new. I did have a Facebook page, and basically it was just friends. Now I have thousands of followers on there, and I don't even go on to Facebook. Very, very rarely, except when I'm working in my marketplace. But my actual Facebook page, I very rarely, and I have no idea where I picked up all these followers. But right, it is in that movement that I've seen in entrepreneurs make that I thought, you know what, this just might be for me. Like I said, when I first started with social media, it was because I wanted to be on Big Brother Canada and I didn't have any following anywheres. And I thought, well, what can I do? Right? What can I do to build up a following? And you guys know I love urban exploring and I love getting on the road by myself. It was the way I calm my system down. And that's why I would take off for these long drives out to the countryside and enjoy looking at farm fields and getting out and walking on old backcountry roads and seeing old barns and seeing the animals. It did something for me that just calmed my system down. And so, I was doing a little bit of Googling and I happened onto the idea of urban exploration. I didn't recognize what I was doing out on the road was actually a category on YouTube. And I went, oh my goodness, that's how I could build my following, right? And so I started filming, and I had an old camcorder and I had an old power shot, really, really old one. And Tammy could vouch for the footage. When I first started, the footage was just awful. Admittedly, right? We all have to start somewheres. We just don't say, well, we're going to be a YouTube superstar and expect that we're just going to knock it out of the ball field right off the hop. It takes a lot of work in that. And I enjoyed it a lot. I at first it took a little bit of getting used to because it wasn't just going out on the road for my own enjoyment in calming down my system, and in actuality, right, in pursuing being on YouTube. It was a lot of work, it was a lot of frustration, it was a lot of worry, right? I wanted the camera gear, I needed good editing programs, I needed to learn how to edit, right? And I didn't even come in front of the camera. It was well over a year before I even came on the front of in front of the camera, and that was only out of necessity because, well, I was urban exploring here in Manitoba. And if you don't know, I'm from Manitoba, Canada, and I was exploring abandoned farms and abandoned homesteads going back to the very first pioneer days, right? The farms normally were still there, and I was really nervous because I'm a social person, but I wasn't like overly anxious to approach strangers, right? Of my own accord. I much preferred people to approach me that way. And in urban exploration, you have to ask for the permissions. And I would have to go find the owners of the farms. They usually would be on another side of the farm where they would build a new house and the old homestead would be sitting there to rot. And people were usually really nice to me, right? They would say, yes, but be very, very careful, right? And sometimes the whole farm would be abandoned, and you can always tell by the overgrown farm fields and stuff. So at that point, I knew that I didn't really have to ask for permission, and I was always excited about coming across those because I didn't have to have interactions with the strangers. The ghost towns, well, some of the ghost towns belonged to some of the older Hutterite colonies. And so I always had to search out those, and they usually found me before I found them because I'd always end up in a ditch or something because I'm staring off, not paying attention to the road. And I was always ending up in a ditch somewheres. It was a lot of fun, right? But when I started the YouTube channel, well, then it became a responsibility. It almost became like a job. I was on a mission. I wanted to be on Big Brother Canada, and I had to build that following. And oh my goodness, those urban explore videos, well, Tammy would see the amount of views that I first got on those videos. Like some of them are close to 100,000 views, and I have over 100 urban explorers out there. And my channel was just taken off, and it was taken off faster than I was ready for. Like I said, even the footage was absolutely just terrible. I pulled out some of those hard drives of mine to pull up some old videos because I thought maybe I'd kind of do a documentary of my story a little bit, and I thought I would dig up some of that footage. Oh my goodness, I don't know if I dropped that hard drive or what happened, but I can't get it to work with my computer or my laptop in any way. And I'd be really sad if I lost that footage. Now I have lots of it on memory cards. I haven't gone back into those to see if I can pull any of the footage from those, but I really would like to save them if at all possible. I just might buy a hard drive tomorrow, cough up that money. I'm going to be coughing up a lot of money tomorrow. Tomorrow's my day for getting my eye exam and getting my glasses and possibly my contact lenses, order those. And so, right, I'm excited about that. I've been waiting for it a long time. We'll get rid of this Morse code and I will get a high grade of anti-reflective coating put on them. So I'm grateful to be able to do that investment. When income tax return comes every year, I always apply that money to the most important thing that I need. Last year, was it my laptop? I got such a great deal. I don't mean to go off the main branch of my storytelling, but I got my laptop last year and I got to design it and put the specs in and everything that I wanted. Didn't even think about the camera. I wish I had. I would have gotten a better camera put on it. But I got like a $5,000 laptop and I got it for like $1,000 in the specs, besides, like I said, the camera, exactly the way are exactly what I wanted, what I thought would serve my brand and the work that I was doing. And it was my first laptop. I was so proud of myself. It was unexpected because I was planning on that money to go for something else. And I'm so glad that I've done that. My laptop has served me so well. But again, it's those goal settings that I make for myself and always making some movement in what I do, right? And so, when I started on YouTube and I saw my channel was taken off, and then life smacks you in the butt. It challenges you, right? And that what I was saying about those seasons, things are just going, 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 going so fantastic. And then all of a sudden, the season changed, not literally the season, but the seasons of how things are running, right? It's kind of like, you know, not everything is going to be good all the time. But at the same time, in saying that, life is not always crappy, crappy, crappy all the time, too. The old has to go away, the bad has to go away. But same again, the good goes away too. And I've gotten used to having that happen in my life. My entire life, it's been that way. But I always gave up on myself. I always said, oh my goodness, I'm in this zone of just everything going terrible. And I would immerse myself in that, knowing eventually I would come out of it, but not recognizing that I had a say in that, right? That I could put some effort in and possibly come out of a bad situation a lot sooner than what it would normally do. And that's happened for me so many times. But, you know, in learning and hanging out with the entrepreneurs, it's where I really started to apply some of these techniques of, right, never giving up, adapting and conquering, finding a way, right? Staying positive, right? And optimistic, even when those seasons did change. Hello, Tammy. I do see you there. Hello, Eugene. Thank you so much for popping in tonight. I so appreciate it. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Uh, Tammy says, I'm so happy for you, Cindy, for your new eyeglasses and hopefully for your contacts too. Yeah, tomorrow's my appointment, but I've got groceries to buy. It's going to be a lot of running around to do tomorrow, but also at the same time, I'll be parting with money. And that's not a comfortable feeling, but just like my laptop, how happy I am that I did invest that money and get what I wanted. get what I needed. I'm going to feel the same way about the glasses. You guys will finally be able to see my eyes, right? We'll get rid of these laser eyes. And I'm not sure how long it'll take. I got my eyes checked there last year, but but I didn't purchase my glasses there. So I don't know how fast their labs work. Hopefully pretty fast. But you know what? We've been going this way now for how long? Since September, you guys. 7 months since I ruined the coating on my glasses and I couldn't afford to buy a new pair of glasses, right? Those seasons that we were talking about. But in that season, good things happened for me, right? So maybe the whole season wasn't bad, but because, or the whole, even though I was in that season where everything is kind of falling apart on me, at the same time, there were moments that were joyful and exciting and I got what I wanted and I surprised myself. Surprisingly, I surprised myself because I've been used to these episodes going on and have managed to just not give up, to adapt and conquer, to show up anyway, right? I could have said, "Oh my goodness, I got laser eyes. I can't let anybody see me like this," right? But this is also a podcast, so there are people who just listen in on the conversation also. They're not actually, right? They're not actually here watching it, but they'll come in later and they'll listen to the podcast and they don't see what these glasses are doing to my face, right? And in showing up, it hasn't been as big of a deal for me as they could have been because, lots of us, we are sensitive, being right, empaths and highly sensitives. What people think of us does impact us in ways, right? We're sensitive that way, right? You say you're ugly or you're stupid. We're right. I try not to pretend that it doesn't bother me, but I'm a very bad fibber. We'll call it fibber. And you would just see it in my face instantly. You would see it in my demeanor that, oh my goodness, right? Oh, right. And then I would just make my live shows a little bit shorter or something. Or in that determination that I've learned, right? I would just plow through it, right? And just manage to get it completed, not to rush out of it, to make sure that that conversation, to the very best of my ability, showed up just like I showed up. And then understanding the seasons are going to change, right? I never did get on to Big Brother Canada. In fact, I didn't even reapply. I did audition for Big Brother Canada. That's why I went, oh my goodness, right? I didn't get my final interview in that. So right, and then I just moved in and I was having so much fun in being a YouTube creator that I totally forgot that this all started because I wanted to be on Big Brother Canada. And life changes, right? As you move forward, those flavors that we taste, that we experiment, yeah, we experiment with them and it changes, and it never crossed my mind again. And I happened to go visit my sister one day because we were all big brother big brother fans, whether it was the United States or Canada. I even liked Big Brother UK. That was a lot really fun because they would always have like stars join in, and I always enjoyed that one too. But yeah, I walked into my sister's apartment one day and she was in the middle of watching Big Brother, and I looked at characters because that's what they were. They looked to me like characters, like they were, because they had to wear like makeup for the cameras and stuff, the way they dressed, the way they were all presenting themselves for the camera. And I understand, right? Your entertainment for people twice a week or three times a week. I can't remember. But I said, oh my goodness, right? And I wanted to go on Big Brother Canada. And right, they would have kicked me out right away just because, right? It's impossible for me to get away with fibbing. That's why I really try really hard not to stretch the truth. I know some people, they kind of, you ask them a question and they'll what do you call it, side swipe it, or they'll shrug their shoulders, or they kind of look up like, right away there's something more to the story that they're not telling. But the fact that they're not telling, it's a kind of a cheat way of not lying, right? For me, I consider that lying when somebody asks you a question and you kind of dance around that, because I did that a lot. I learned to dance around things. I was brought up not to ask, right? So I never asked for anything. But oh my goodness, I could hint and I could dance around subjects until somebody kind of got the whiff of what I needed, or a question that I had but was afraid to ask, right? Or some help that I needed but was afraid to ask, and I always wanted somebody else to approach me with that offer. It's something from my childhood, again, in my adapt and conquer, right? I managed to get through my childhood and my teenage years without having to do too much asking, but I did learn that trick, because that's what it is. It's a trick. For me, it is kind of a form of lying, right? Just not to cough it up and just talk about it or ask for it right off the hop. I've gotten a little bit better with it, but not much, only out of necessity, and also in my own determination to stand on my 2 feet, which made it so those seasons kind of dragged on a little bit longer, especially the crappy ones. They drag on for a lot longer. But in that time, amazing things still happened, right? I got amazing jobs. I got to go on my trips every September. I would have little surprises, right? Little windfalls come into my life, and I would just be so grateful for those little breaks in what wasn't working for me, what was the trip ups and stuff, right? Now, I don't know why I was talking about that in the changing of the seasons, but it was because, you know, it was in hanging out with the entrepreneurs that I knew that I was my own worst enemy, because, when things would trip me up, I go, fine, I give up. I'm never going to try that again. We're going to go and do this instead. And I'm so proud of myself for the one fact that I never gave up on my brand. I never gave up on YouTube, and YouTube never gave up on me. Every day that I show up, I have another opportunity to get it right. In all honesty, being a YouTube creator, actually, I feel like it contributed to my emotional and mental well-being. It made it, because I it's not just the entrepreneurship type of it, but the fact that I had something that was completely mine, and whether it succeeded or it failed, that it would be on me, right? If it succeeded, amazing, right? And in my opinion, it did succeed, not into the goals that I was, right, expecting it to be, but in the unexpected gifts of not giving up, things that I never realized, the opportunity to work on my mindset, right? I never even considered that I had issues, right? And you guys hear me say all the time, we all have handicaps emotionally, physically, mentally, and we have to own that for ourselves. And if we go about our lives pretending that we are the be alls to end all, that we don't have any issues, literally, right? We're liars, right? So for myself, that was one thing that I was so grateful to learn, that I was no different than anybody else. Of course, my problems and my issues, right, were different, but each one of us is unique, so it should be. It should be different, right? In our choices, we can create such amazing things for ourselves, and we don't know how it's going to work out, right? We're supposed to be over here, but we're way over here. But making movement is just making those small adjustments in the direction that we want to go, and where we want to go might be over here. We're supposed to be over here, but we're over here, right? If we get here, well, look at the distance that we have traveled, right? How much work, how much can we accomplish in that span of space? We're like halfway to where we're supposed to be, and maybe three-quarters of the way to where we want to be, right? And lots of times we don't know where we're supposed to be. But as long as we're just going in that direction, there's always that opportunity to land in the most perfect spot, in the most perfect opportunity. And that's how I look at it, with me and this brand, in just showing up no matter what, every single day. And you guys know, when I pop in, I don't have a topic of discussion, but it has never failed me. Not once. Maybe in how I present it, maybe in my grammar or in my attitude, or sometimes in that short term memory that's specifically, it comes from childhood trauma, right? It's proven scientifically. So, in my acceptance of that, I don't worry about that, right? That's my handicap. That's one of my handicaps. And in it being visually recognized out there, oh my goodness, look at Cindy. She just had a brain fart there, right? That's okay, because that gives you permission to have that brain fart in whatever you're working on, right? Not everybody is on YouTube, but whatever you work towards in achieving for yourself, right? Or your family, or in your life, right? To each one of us, we have that right to choose for ourselves. But the idea is to just keep moving, to never give up when it gets hard. And it gets hard, you guys. You guys know, you guys have your own hard, right? You guys have your own difficulties, just like I have my own difficulties. But if I just hack away at it when that season comes, when things are tough, right? And things do get tough, but then things open up, and these magnificent things come into our lives, and we go, oh my goodness, if I had given up, I would never have achieved that, right? I would never have met Hannah and Tammy and Eugene and all the amazing people that I have met in the experiences that I've had, right? And again, it's been good times and it's been bad times, but that's the way it is with everybody. And none of us should ever think that it's just us. Even if somebody is dressed to the T, presents themselves perfectly in their grammar and their presentations, the ones that have the airs of, I know better, or they have lots of money and big businesses, and you're just a working housewife trying to put milk on your kids' cereal, right? That you have to appreciate in the moment those small things that you get right and understand that nobody is perfect. They might present that way, right? But everybody has handicaps physically, mentally, emotionally, and right? Those are great indicators also when I say I have a hard time fibbing. So I try really hard not even to dance around the subjects anymore, just because I want to be representing. I want to be the example for others that, I can be the person that I truly am, right? In all the mistakes that I make, in those little brain farts that I have, and just to be the evidence, even in that, not in the successes, right? Right? I'm not a great, big, huge YouTuber, right? I'm not. But I am a success for myself because I can clearly see where my life most likely would have ended up, right? I would have been that person at 80 years old, rocking on my rocking chair and just, right, being disappointed with saying no to all those opportunities or giving up at the first hiccup in what I was trying to accomplish. And I've had some great runs too, right? It's just not been all crappy, crappy. I've had a lot of amazing runs in my life that even sitting here in this moment, if I was just stuck there in my rocking chair, looking out my big picture window, I wouldn't be disappointed in how my life ended up. And lots of people would look at my life and go, oh my goodness, thank goodness I'm not in that state, right? But there are lots of people who would appreciate, in the very least, being in this state that I'm in right now. They would think that it was absolutely amazing. Just like I think it's absolutely amazing that I could just come in and just yibber yabber and just open up my mouth and it will just flow and flow in a way that there is an example. There is a conversation to be had, something that might impact me when I come in and watch my live over, or maybe one of you, right? That's listening in the background or showing up in the comments, that we get to learn off of each other's experiences in our failures and our successes, and not to minimalize the life that we've created for ourselves. We get one shot at it. We get one shot at it. And lots of times our lives are dictated by things outside of our control. But what we can control, we should control. And that's one thing that I did learn from the working and hanging out with entrepreneurs, and that never give up attitude, that find a way, and at the same time in creating the best life for myself as I possibly can. I learned so much in that process, right? I learned so much in that. And so when those bad times, those difficult times, they show up in my life, I'll go, okay, time to pull up the trousers, dust off my knees, and let's have at her, right? Because it's not going to last forever. And even if it does last for a while, there are going to be good moments in these difficulties. At the end of every night, at the very least, you can pat yourself on the shoulder and say, good job. You never gave up. You're going to have a good sleepy. You're going to wake up with fresh energy tomorrow, and you can give it another shot. Nobody could ever say Cindy gives up on herself. I never give up. And if I care for somebody, I try really hard. Sometimes, right? We have to let go of what doesn't want to move with us, right? Because we're not expected to sit with the misery. We're not expected to sit in the difficulties. We're supposed to move, right? But we can't force others to move, can we? And so we can't sit and keep company with that. And that was something that was probably the biggest lesson that I learned in all of this, because I did sit, right? I didn't want people to endure by themselves. And they were people that I cared about, people that I loved, even within my own family. And I would sit in that, and it would be painful, it would be difficult, and lots of times I would come home and I would cry in that, and then I would wake up in the morning and I wouldn't have that fresh energy because I knew what was in store. But even in that, there were good moments, right? There were amazing moments, moments of relief from the hardships, right? The difficulties in my life. And even if it only lasted a few moments, it was enough, right? Just to take that weight off of me for a little while. And that's how everybody should look at their lives. We live in a time right now where there are lots of difficulties, even within our own community. You just have to walk to the grocery store and look at the prices of the groceries on the shelves just to recognize that it is difficult times, right? The middle class are the low incomes now, right? That's a bit of a hit, isn't it? That people go to work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day minimum, just to be able to put milk on the kids' cereal. But you can't give up in that, right? Otherwise, the household fails, right? You may lose your house, you may lose your car, right? Your kids could go hungry in that. So if you don't learn to adapt and conquer, if you don't learn to ride the waves, right? Whistle while you work, dance in the rain, because you have to, right? You have to. And sometimes we do find ourselves sitting with others, and we have to, right? We have to move. We have to keep moving. If somebody can't move along with you, maybe you can move a little bit and come back with some resources or some groceries or a story to tell, a short visit. But we can only scoop up. That was another lesson that I learned. You can only scoop up as you're moving along, right? Because we can't just sit still in the misery, because misery only wants company. And I would hate to be that person where somebody doesn't have those lessons, and because I'm sad and I'm miserable or I'm destitute, that I can't move, I don't want to move, that somebody I cared about would sit there with me and keep me company and sacrifice in their own well being, in their own life, and in their own little bit of movement that they need to make for themselves, right? Lots of people, they don't recognize it's just in not giving up. just in putting, I've been talking about it really quite a bit in the past couple of weeks about putting one foot in the front of another. And it is in that season that we are in that difficulties. And the thing is, if we don't put that one foot in front of another, we fall behind. And if we fall behind, it makes it a lot difficult to get to the ketchup, doesn't it? Like not the bottle of ketchup, like to catch up. You're just adding to the plate of the difficulties. It's like what I did, right? Knowing that I was going to be paying my bills this month, I let my bills slack from last month. So now I have to pay double my house bills this month. Whereas if I was a little bit more determined, right? If I said, well, that money that I'm getting, it needs to go for the glasses and go for groceries and get stockpiled and get back on track. That if I had put more money onto my bills, then I wouldn't be paying double this month because I allowed myself to slack, to fall behind. And lots of people do that in their lives, right? And it's hard to catch up when you do fall behind in the bills. Believe me, I know. I used to be the biggest bill juggler ever, right? When I was gambling, oh my goodness, every month it would be like Santa Claus, just a little bit of a sprinkle of money here and a sprinkle of here, just enough not to get stuff cut off. Not like things I didn't have my utilities cut off before. I most definitely have, but that's really getting behind. And in difficult times like this, it's important to try to stay ahead of the game. At the very least, you guys, keep your gas tanks topped off. Gas is going to go through the roof in pricing. So keep your gas tanks full. And, if you have room for $5 worth of gas, you put that $5 worth of gas in the car because that $5 of gas is probably going to be $20 worth of gas in another month or so. And let's hope, right, things start settling down really soon. I haven't been into the news at all today. Really surprising because I have been right online all day today that I didn't even go check in to see what was going on with the world that way. But sometimes that's good news, right? No news is good news. And yeah, I believe that. I think a lot of that news out there is specifically meant to stir the pot, to make us feel bad, to make us want to give up, right? Oh, this damn world, forget that. I'm just going to hold myself up here and, right? And we get ourselves in those depressive states, right? It's important. One foot in front of another. If that's all you can do, then that's all you can do. But that's considered movement, right? I'm a big believer in baby steps. I do baby steps all the time because life is hard, right? And again, sometimes we are a little bit nervous about what that next step entails or where that next step is going to land us. And in that unsureness, it's scary, right? But if you just do it in baby steps, just the littlest amount, if it's just a phone call that you're putting off or putting off a bill, if you can just put $20 on it, if you could just put that $5 in your gas tank, right? It's enough to keep you going. Oh my goodness. Good job, right? Good job in that. You're taking care of yourself, right? You're taking care of yourself. And in feeling good yourself, right? Maybe in that process of scooping up as you're moving along, that you can make somebody else feel a little bit better. And that doesn't mean that has to come from you. It doesn't have to come from your pocket and that little drummer boy, drummer girl kind of attitude. holding the door for somebody, telling somebody to have a nice day, giving them a few minutes to unload whatever emotional burden is on their chest, that sometimes that's all it takes to brighten somebody's day, and it doesn't cost anything, right? And I'm guilty. I could have done that today, right? I'm just getting over a cold. I had an experience. I don't know what happened. I forgot. We got into such a conversation, you guys, yesterday, that I forgot to mention that when I woke up yesterday morning, I was better. I was completely better. I was in absolute shock because I noticed right away my runny nose was gone. I wasn't sneezing anymore. And I go, oh my goodness, that wasn't even the 24-hour flu. It was like for 12 hours I was sick. And it was definitely a cold or a flu, right? Like my stomach wasn't upset or anything. It was just all systematic of a cold, but I felt absolutely crappy. And then I did my live show, and I even forgot that, maybe take some water or something so that I could sleep good at night. But no, I crashed right out. And when I woke up in the morning, I felt so good. So if you guys sent me some good mojo on that, I much appreciate it, because I was very surprised. I took serious note, and I meant to mention it yesterday, but I was on a roll in the conversation that we were having yesterday. Okay, before I get in a roll again, if you've never hung out with me before, these are 54 powerful words, just powerful words, but words that can impact us in any moment in our life, right? And I believe in that. I pull a card for myself every single day, and I keep it in top of mind in the course of my day. And it's in that's the idea, right? When you pull the card just for 24 hours, see how that word in the conversations, in the chores that you do, in the little adventures in your life. Sometimes it's just in recognizing that in somebody else's life, right? Okay, you guys. And for me, sometimes it's relevant in the conversation that we just had, but I don't even remember the conversation that we had. But I'll be back in my live after my live's over, and I'll watch it. I'll watch it for myself, understanding, right? I need these conversations and these little pep talks just as much as anybody does, right? Okay, you guys. 54 powerful word. What word are we getting tonight? Take the front one. Oh, I love this. Is my favorite. This is my favorite card. Change is always the result of an action. And it is relevant to what I was talking about, because that is the idea, is to just keep moving, making those small steps yourself, working towards the direction you want to go, understanding, right? That life has different plans for you. You're supposed to be over here, but you're just hitting a goal that you have. But that's okay, because you're way back here somewheres, right? So in that span of getting to there, right? You only have a small distance to get to where you're supposed to be. And it's much better than getting yanked way over there where you're supposed to be, right? Than rather than just going where you got to, where you wanted to be, and then just, right? And it's just a short walk or a short turn rather than being yanked to where you're supposed to be, right? Lots of us, we don't know what's in store for our lives. I'm a big believer that I am meant to be somewheres. Where that is, I'm not quite sure, but in my lessons I understand that I have to just be willing to be open and just to move along in the best way that I can, setting goals for myself. And we'll discuss some of these goals that I have. I don't think I've really dug into it, but it's so personal for me. And like I said, I got it written down. And one day when I accomplish some of these big goals, these big dreams that I have in my life, I'll be whipping this out and I'll read it. And I've written the dates on it and I'll go, oh my goodness, Cindy 7 years ago said she was going to do this. And look at, she's doing this. And this is how I work. And I understand, just like I had that dream of being on Big Brother Canada, right? It's no longer a dream, but I didn't understand that wasn't meant for me. And that I truly, in the end, I'm glad that I didn't do it. But how would I have known? How would I have ever gotten as far as I have in this moment if I hadn't tried for that? Like I said, sometimes we're meant to be over here, but right? In setting our goals and just moving towards them, sometimes we find better directions, better destinations, right? Bigger plans, bigger dreams, right? Better solutions. And that's been a big one for me too. And we'll talk about solutions, I guess, sometime soon because it came to my mind. Change is always the result of an action. And this is really something that I learned by hanging out with the entrepreneurs, because it is in just putting one foot in front of the other, never giving up, adapting and conquering, and trying to avoid those cranks in our lives, right? Because we're supposed to be over there and we're just sitting right here, afraid to make any kind of movement. And if we've got to move, if we're supposed to be over there, life will divvy out something, throw some wrench into your life where you have no choice but to scramble. And I would much rather go at a comfortable, slow pace in my baby steps, right? Understanding that that's enough, right? We're only introducing change into our life. I never want to stand still. I never, right? I have been creating myself my entire life, and I'm not even close to being done yet. And I'm 65 years old. If I could say that for myself, right? You guys can say the same thing. It is never too late for what you want to create in your life. And that was another lesson I learned from hanging out with the entrepreneurs. Okay, you guys, change is always the result of an action, right? Take it to mind. Next 24 hours, you watch, make little changes, make little decisions. It's not enough just to make a decision. You got to put an action towards it immediately. Write it down. Get your butt off the chair. Make some movement towards that. Doesn't have to be big movement. It doesn't have to be done yesterday, but make some kind of movement, right? And watch the change come into your life. Just watch it. Okay, you guys. Let's come into the comments here for just a moment and then off I go. Okay, this one here. No, money wise, I know it's not easy at all. I hope that you can regain your money and some people will buy some of your merchandise and things that you and your sister sells. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I actually sold 42 earrings for $40 yesterday. Much appreciated that $40. I put it to good use. But at the same time, that's pretty much what I paid for those earrings because I picked them up in that little thrift store that I worked at. I paid less than, no, I probably paid 75 cents a pair. They were really nice pairs. I put a nice collection together. Somebody paid me for those. But that was basically the only sale that I made this week, right? So So, and actually, I had somebody else message me on the same earring, so I got to make sure I got to mark it as sold. Okay. And you are touching many people's lives, Cindy's, with your channel here. That's awesome and spectacular too. Oh, you're very sweet. You're very sweet, Tammy. Thank you so much. See these little pep talks, right? These are things that make me feel good, right? That be proud of myself and just showing up, right? And just showing up. Earl made it in tonight too. Hello, Earl. Well, I was just ending the live, but I appreciate that you just popped in. But yeah, these seasons, you guys, when things get tough, just remember it doesn't last forever. You're going to come out of it. And if you can make a little bit of movement yourself, then you won't fall behind. And if you don't fall behind, that depression, that sadness, that noisy me, right? That miserableness. And sometimes it's just in our attitude, right? And then just alleviating some of that pressure, some of that sadness, right? Some of that frustration. It makes all the difference in the world. Okay, you guys. That's my good cheer. And we'll see you tomorrow.